All right, so let's get right into it. We're going to break down this really rare onstage conversation between two of the absolute heavyweights in AI. I'm talking about Damas Hassabis, the head of Google DeepMind, and Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic. And the topic, well, it's a big one. What happens the day after artificial general intelligence, or AGI, actually arrives? And just to give you a sense of how big of a deal this was, the moderator literally said it was like getting the Beatles and the Rolling Stones in the same room. I mean, think about it. These are the two leading and, competing labs in this incredible race to build what might be the most powerful technology humanity has ever seen. So that brings us right to the central question they were tackling, and it's the one we're going to dive into right now. This is a question with, and I'm not exaggerating, enormous consequences for every single one of us. When is AGI actually coming, and what on earth does our world look like the day after it arrives? Okay, so first up, the timeline. When is all this supposed to happen? And this is where things get really interesting, because you start to see this subtle but incredibly important disagreement in how these two leaders see the next few years playing out. So check this out. On one side, you've got Dario Amodei saying, hey, we could see AGI capabilities as soon as 2026 or 2027. That's really soon. Damas Hassabis, on the other hand, is a bit more cautious, putting it at a 50% chance by the end of the decade. Now, this gap isn't just a random guess. It's all about one key idea, one mechanism that's driving everything. And here it is, the self-improvement loop. The concept is actually pretty straightforward, but its implications are massive. You see, once AI models get good enough at coding, they can start doing their own AI research. And what do they do with that? Well, they build the next, even more powerful AI. And that new AI is even better at this whole process. So the cycle just accelerates and accelerates. It's this feedback loop that has Amodei convinced that the timeline is way shorter than most of us think. So, with that kind of incredible power potentially arriving so fast, well, it puts humanity at a huge crossroads. You could even call it our greatest test. It's like we have to make a choice between two completely different futures. Okay, so on one hand, you have the promise, which is, honestly, it sounds like science fiction. Both Hassabis and Amodei talk about AGI as being the ultimate tool for science. I mean, just imagine for a second a world where we can cure diseases like cancer, figure out new sources of clean energy, maybe even finally understand the fundamental nature of the universe. That's the incredible upside we're talking about here. But then, there's the other side of the coin. The risks are just as massive. Think about what this technology could do in the wrong hands. A lone actor using it for something like bioterrorism, or a hostile nation-state using it to gain an advantage. And that's not even mentioning the huge economic disruption or, the ultimate existential fear. What if we just lose control of these things? And Dario Amodei has this brilliant way of framing this whole challenge. He brings up the movie Contact and says that right now, humanity is basically in its technological adolescence. We're like teenagers who've suddenly been handed the keys to something incredibly powerful. And the big, scary question is, are we mature enough to handle it? Or are we going to crash the car? Okay, let's bring this down to something a little more immediate, something that affects pretty much everyone, jobs. What does AGI mean for our careers? 50%. Just let that number sink in. According to Amodei's estimates, up to half of all entry-level white-collar jobs could potentially just be automated away by these systems. And again, he's not talking about something decades away. He thinks we could start seeing the first impacts on junior roles, especially in fields like coding, within a single year. Then, within 3 years, it spreads to more complex tasks. His real fear is that within 5 years, the change will be happening so fast that our society, our economy, our institutions, they just won't be able to keep up. So the obvious question here is, right, if the risks are so high and the disruption is coming so fast, why don't we just, hit the brakes, maybe slow down a bit? Well, the answer comes down to one word: geopolitics. And this, right here, is at the absolute heart of the dilemma. The current U.S. policy is basically to sell advanced AI chips to China, the idea being that it ties them into our supply chains. But Dario Amodei argues for the complete opposite. He's saying, no, we should stop selling our most powerful chips to geopolitical adversaries, period. And to really understand where Amodei is coming from, you have to hear his analogy for this. For him, this isn't just a trade debate about market share. No. He compares selling these advanced AI chips to selling nuclear weapons to North Korea. And when you hear that, Well, it makes it crystal clear just how high he thinks the stakes really are in this global race. Okay, so we've covered the timelines, the incredible promise, the terrifying peril, the geopolitical race. So after all that, what's the one thing? What is the single most important thing that you and I should be watching for over the next year? Well, here's something they both agree on, and it's a huge deal. The one thing to watch is this: are AI systems starting to build the next generation of AI systems? That's it. If we see that self-improvement loop really kick in and start working, it means AGI is probably just a few years out. If it doesn't, well, we might have a little more breathing room. And that leaves us with one final and pretty urgent question. In a global race like this, with so many companies and countries all sprinting towards the finish line, is there even a brake pedal? Is it possible for us to coordinate and manage this transition safely? Or is the accelerator already slammed to the floor and all we can really do is just hold on tight?